It's a little long, bear with me. When I was in last year of my college, 3 of us decided to take a short trip to a nearby beach. We got our tickets for the scheduled date at the ticket counter at bus stop, and while walking back, we decided to take a shortcut since we were too excited to get all the shopping done for the trip. That shortcut meant we had to get through a broken wall in the graveyard and cross it diagonally to reach the other side of the road. When I reflect on my behavior now, I feel we were idiots to have been laughing and giggling in the graveyard, disrespecting the occupants. That graveyard was divided into 2 parts. Half of it was Christian burial while the other half was Muslim burial. We were talking incessantly about the trip and hardly paying attention to our surroundings, but when we reached the last grave before crossing the wall and going out on the street, all 3 of us felt chills. That burial wasn't old, it was Muslim burial, and there were fresh flowers laid on the mud mound and there were candles still burning around it. It was the resting place of a 15-year-old boy who had passed away a few days back. We rushed out of that place and none of us talked for a few minutes, but we quickly forgot about it when we got back to shopping. We reached our hostel and all 3 of us went to our separate rooms. I was tired, so I decided I'll sleep early and switched off the lights. While I was laying in my bed using my phone, I suddenly felt that someone's present at the entrance of my room even though the door's locked. And whatever it was in the room, near the door. I dared not glance in that direction. I've never felt so helpless. It was like my mind had stopped working. I wanted to dart out of my room and go to my friend's room, but that meant I had to cross the door. I just turned on my side so that my back faced the door and called a male friend. I told him everything and he said, "Keep calm, don't panic." He talked to me for around 2 hours trying to divert my mind, and I finally drifted off to sleep. But it was a very disturbed sleep. Next morning I went to my other friend's room and she was still drowsy as she hadn't gotten much sleep last night. I thought she must have watched Netflix like always. We didn't connect the dots until our third friend walked into the room with puffy eyes. When she said that even she couldn't sleep last night cause she felt she was being watched, we realized that maybe something had followed us from the graveyard last evening. What followed was a series of bad luck for all 3 of us. My trip getting canceled, suicide in friends' family, failing assignments, getting show causes from college administration. Just random bad luck stuff. We started going to the temple regularly and it all subsided. I'm not sure if it was a coincidence or our minds were playing tricks, but it was shit scary. This is a true story told to me by a friend about 5 years ago. Here is his paraphrased account. I'm a Marine, and at the time this occurred, I was 2 days out from ending my tour. Intel told us that a band of insurgents were holed up inside of a series of caves in Ad Dower. We split up and searched 2 deep caverns in groups of 3. Every corner turned came with it an unparalleled feeling of anxiety and dread, thinking that any second one of us would step on an IED and end up blown to bits or trapped in rubble forever. Once we hit the 200-yard mark, my team lead got a call on his walkie-talkie that a man and woman bearing rifles were apprehended. It turned out that they weren't the insurgents we were after. They were found deep within the cave with guns and an old cuneiform stone tablet seated around a small fire. They were detained and sent back to base in an armored vehicle, while I kept the tablet in my possession. Just before leaving the cave, our hearts nearly stopped when a blood-curdling screech emanated from deeper inside. It sounded like some sort of animal, and we didn't want to explore further. The front of the tablet was a transcription in Arabic that I couldn't figure out. The flip side was a drawing. a snake head with horns, reptilian eyes, and serpent's tongue. Despite it being old and worn, the drawing was actually quite unnerving. I kept it with me as a souvenir. Before the couple were loaded into the truck, the woman looked at me and said you'd be wise to leave it behind. The following several nights I had a barrage of horrific dreams where I brutally murdered my wife and daughter, and upon waking, I'd hear a voice damning me to hell. I brushed it off as stress, though oddly, my sense of smell was unusually strong. I could smell flowers 50 yards away. The dreams persisted after I got home. I showed my wife the tablet, and she kept it as a souvenir. She placed it in a small shelf we had on the wall. Not 2 days after getting back, I'd wake up in the middle of the night from those terrible dreams, only to find my wife out of bed. I'd discover her wandering aimlessly through the house, mumbling to herself and disoriented like a somnambulant. This went on for 2 weeks, and then one night it broke loose. When I got out of the shower on this particular night, I walked into the bedroom to see my wife sitting on the edge of the bed, just staring at the tablet on the wall in a trance-like state. I spoke to her repeatedly, but was unable to get her to respond. She was just staring. I looked at her eyes, and sure enough, they were fixated on that tablet. I lightly grasped her chin and turned her head toward me. Thought I shouldn't have done that. She gazed into my eyes with big, dilated pupils, rendering her irises fully black. She was gritting her teeth in a sort of angry, demonic scowl. I've never seen a look of true hatred until that moment. I could feel it penetrating my soul. Then, something magical and evil in equal measure occurred. She started whispering at me, stammering what sounded like gibberish, or, more frighteningly, speaking in tongues. In this moment, her voice sounded like a man's, and the room began to fill up with a pungent, repugnant stench which was indescribable. Like rotting garbage inside of a dumpster, and the look in my wife's unblinking eyes sent chills down my spine and had all of my hairs standing at attention. I felt so vulnerable at the moment and subconsciously knew we'd been invaded by an evil force. She looked like she wanted to harm me. It was palpable. I could think of nothing else but to grab her by the hand, close my eyes, and pray the rosary over her and over. Her palms were cold as ice and clutched so stiff that I'd not have been able to pry them open with a vice grip. As seconds passed, I finally heard Adam. Spoken in that sweet feminine voice I'd become accustomed to all these years. Adam. What just happened? Oh, baby, are you okay? Tell me what's wrong. She replied with, I don't know. I got out of the tub and came in here, and I don't remember anything in between then and you coming in here. Not was I talking. No, babe. You were just staring. Adam, please get rid of that tablet. Why, babe? I asked. Her response made my blood run cold. Because ever since you brought it home, I've been getting the feeling that I want to kill you and Lacey. Something evil is in our house. I grabbed it immediately and tossed it outside in the trash. The next day, I threw it in the river. Ever since that day, things have gone back to normal. I don't know what exactly happened to her that night, but she later claimed to have seen shadows moving around the house just after I got home, both day and night. One day, she said she saw a black, shadowy mass hovering in the center of the living room, and she said I could feel it watching me, and worse, I felt that it hated me. I think something was inside of her that night, and I believe that had I kept that tablet, she might have went through with one of her feelings.